Humans have been experimenting with color for centuries. Color is something that interests me in how we use it in our daily lives. And one of the things we're going to talk about with women artists here at the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition is the use of color and how they use color in their art and its impact in their lives. On this episode of Extraordinary Women TV, the show wouldn't be complete without my Good to Know Minute, where you will learn the top success tips and tools from today's most extraordinary women. I'm Shannon Skinner, host of Extraordinary Women TV, and today I'm speaking with Lindsay Zervagel. So Lindsay, tell me, what are you doing here in the art exhibition? I mean, what's your project?
I'm here doing the Love Lettering Project. So it is a community arts engagement project where I get people talking about what they love about where they live. It's curated through the Art Now project that's involved with the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition. So instead of just buying or looking at the beautiful art that is here, and it is quite extraordinary, I'm asking people to engage with what they love about the Toronto art scene. Write this thing, this inanimate thing in a love letter, and then hide the letter for a stranger to find, to really spread the love about the Toronto art scene here.
So Lindsay, what inspired you to start the Love Lettering campaign?
The project started 10 years ago. I was sitting in a park with a friend and we were writing love poems, and we just happened to have airmail envelopes in our purses. So we decided to pop these letters into these airmail envelopes and hide them for a stranger to find. There was something really magical about that. You know, who would find it? How would it interrupt their day? How would it sort of intersect with their lives sort of idea? So that's where it started 10 years ago. And since I've taken it to the UK and asked people all over the UK what they love about where they live. I was just up in the north with a project up in working with youth in the far north. It was a lot of fun.
North.
The Yukon and Whitehorse, Yellowknife, and in Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories.
Does Toronto need more love?
I think every city could use a little more love. Always, it's so easy to think about what doesn't work in a city. It's so easy to see the holes in what is frustrating, and I think that it's always a really great exercise, no matter where you are, no matter how long you've been in the city, whether it's a few days or a lifetime, to think about what really works in your city. And in this case, to really think about what works in the art scene in Toronto. It's so varied, it's so huge. I mean, look at this. It's just such an enormous display of everything that is good in this city, artistic-wise.
How does color play into your love lettering campaign? How do you use color?
The project that I have, I use these airmail envelopes that have the red and white, very distinctive border on them. I think that the envelopes really stand out because of this red and white piece, as opposed to just a white envelope that, you know, usually is a signifier of a bill or some sort of unwanted mail. So in that way, the blue and white and red really sort of is distinctive to the airmail envelopes that I ask people to hide. And in the project, when I'm asking people to write letters, I have all these amazing papers from the Paper Place. They were a donation from the Paper Place and from Coach House Books. So people have this huge range of colors to play with and to cut up and to use in the little art pieces they've made.
And now, the Good to Know Minute. And now it's time for my Good to Know Minute. What would be your top success tip that you would like to share with our viewers?
That's a big one, and also a small one, I think. I would just say just do it. I mean, it's so easy to just say, oh, but I haven't thought it through everything, or oh, it's just not a big enough idea yet. And I think that the best ideas start as really small ideas, and it's just that chipping away and letting it really find its feet and letting it really grow into what it should be, and being aware and attentive to what's the feedback that you're getting. And I think that that's the most... That's what's really worked for me. Like, this project started with a friend and I sitting in a park, and now I've been doing it for 10 years and I've been able to travel all over the world with it, and it was just by letting the project sort of lead me as to where I needed to take it next.
How does this sort of fit within your everyday living? Like, how can you survive off writing love letters.
I also do a whole bunch of other things. I don't just write love letters, though that would be a dream come true. I also work as a novelist. I work as a writer. I do freelance gigs. So it's one of many things that I do. As a writer, it's really solitary, and it's not a lot of hands-on sort of material work that I do. It's a lot of typing into a computer, saving a document, and doing that over and over and over again. So this project lets me interact with people, with strangers all the time, which is so fulfilling. It lets me work with paper. I'm also a bookbinder, so it's so much fun to be able to get my fingers sticky and get out the scissors and get people who maybe haven't used a glue stick since they were kids to re-engage with that part of themselves.
Well, thank you for speaking with us today, Lindsay, and I wish you all the best with your love lettering campaign.
Thank you so much. Take care.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, more on Extraordinary Women TV. So stay with us. You're watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm speaking with Kate Taylor. So Kate, tell us a little bit about your art.
So my art is really all about capturing energy and motion in nature. So I'm very attracted to color and flowers, and so a lot of the color is captured within the pieces.
And you have a studio in Toronto?
I do, yeah. I'm based in Yonge and Lawrence in Toronto, and I paint almost full-time. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity to kind of expose your kind of creative thoughts and kind of really get out there creatively.
So can artists be business people?
I think that you're probably a more successful artist in some ways if you are a business person. Like I think I've seen some really talented artists that don't always have the business component of it. So, as much as it's wonderful to create, you also have to sell and you have to market yourself and you have to build a brand. And that's really critically important, I think, for the people that are purchasing to know that you're really committed to your craft.
I'm an abstract artist working in acrylics, and although it's abstract, it's actually abstracted from nature. So I do a lot of landscapes, a lot of sort of trees, waterways, rivers. I hike a lot. I do a lot of walking around Ontario, so it's all my favourite places. And some travels from around about Europe too. I have a couple of pieces from Norway, from France.
It's just anything and everything I think of. I love to draw sumos, so it kind of grew from there. And ever since then, I've been making like sumo-themed work and like lots of like weird, quirky things. Yeah.
My art is inspired by local food. I've worked as a chef for many years, and I also have a degree in fine arts, so I combine food and art.
Well, I started making it about 22 years ago. I graduated from George Brown College's Jewelry Art and Design course right here in Toronto. And when they taught us how to make chain by hand, which is taking wire and drawing it and making the rings and actually forming the patterns, I just thought it was like the greatest thing. So that's what I've been concentrating on. That's my technique of specialization. It's much like the chainmail technique of medieval times, so it's been around a very long time. So I decided that nobody was doing anything really interesting with it, so I decided to take an age-old technique and just sort of put my spin on it and make it more contemporary.
So this painting is called Frisia, and it's based on a photograph that I took. I really like macro photographs. So the process for this is I work on a birch panel. I stain the panel so you can see the wood grain that comes through, and that becomes an integral part of the composition. Then I work only with a palette knife, and I mix the colors on the board. So the composition is a palette knife, and then I put a resin epoxy coating on top of that. And that's mixing a resin and a hardener and degassing it with a propane torch to get the bubbles out and then letting it cure. And the reason I do that is because it really accentuates kind of the energy and the kind of the juiciness of the color, but it also actually really helps to bring out the wood grain.
This one is actually, I've just painted this. This is my most recent painting. I actually spent a weekend at my friend Kate's cottage, who's a couple of doors down here. We had a painting weekend, lots of wine, lots of sunshine, lots of trees, by the lake. And this was the lake just outside the cottage. There are trees across the lake from there. The sky was bright blue like it was today. And it's just about the reflection and the movement in the water. It's just a very calm, peaceful day spent with friends.
Hot pot mama, and it's just like a vessel I made, and you pretty much put anything in there. It's like a jar, cookie jar, well, for tiny cookies, but yeah.
Tiny cookies, that's
Tiny
my
cookies.
kind of jar.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just most fun I've had making like a bigger ceramic piece.
Something that is obvious in your art is that there's a female figure. Where does that come from? And what does she represent to you?
Well, I think it comes from my own work with food, and I find art is an exploration for me. So the figure usually it somehow loosely resembles me in a way, and so it's a way that I can just explore that process of cooking and my relationship to food and art.
Yeah.
And so how do you find the support to continue doing your art?
I have a wonderful husband who prodded me into doing this. He said, doesn't matter, give up your job, do this. So he's here. In fact, he's actually next door. He's a photographer. I've dragged him into showing as well. But he was there at every show. He's there supporting me, helping me set things up, just helping with the logistics of things, and just being behind me as a cheerleader, just cheering me on and supporting me.
Well, I have other jobs too. I teach like pottery part-time, and I'm like a part-time server, so it's just a big juggling movement for this, yeah.
I do some cooking, so I have to balance my art with practical things as well. And then I'm at the beginning of my career as well, so I'm finding places, like I did the Spring One of a Kind show, just getting my name out there and just getting a sense of where my work sells. And I think it's a slow build. It takes some patience and some dedication and making choices, not spending my money on other things. It's always spent on art and shows and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a choice.
Well, the art community in Toronto is incredibly supportive, and it's a very small community. So I'm also actually chair of the Artist Network, which provides support for artists and helping them with the business of art. And through that, I've met an incredible number of wonderful people that are part of that support group. So, if you have issues or you need some honest critique of your work or whatever, there's always somebody there to really help, which has been fabulous.
How do you use color? What is the importance of color in your art and in your life?
Oh, it's very important because it like sets the mood for your pieces, and I don't know. Nowadays I'm trying to find more intuitive ways to use color and whatever's funky and fresh. I don't know, and like kind of throwbacks to vintage colors too. So.
I love color. I love strong color, and so it was sort of very much of a natural for me. My house is painted in like raspberries and yellows, and so the work as well sort of reflected that. I'm a huge gardener, and one of the reasons I love the gardening is because it creates really an unusual, sometimes combination of colors that I then will integrate into the work.
As I said, although it's abstract, it's from nature. They're abstract landscapes, so it's the red of maples, it's the blue of water, it's seasons, the white of snow, and all those different whites that you get, the greens of summer. It's definitely all from nature.
I like looking at like a local carrot and just seeing all the diverse colors that occur in nature and trying to bring it into my work as well. And then having just a really varied color palette where you have bright reds and bright greens and lime greens and sort of shocks of color. I think, color can just be uplifting and playful, and I like to bring that into my work.
I use it as sort of, sometimes it's the main focus of what it is, and sometimes it's just an accent, but I just feel like color sort of, depending on if it's a dark shade or a bright shade or whatever, I also see how women react to color, and when a woman comes along and goes, oh my God, that's the color I've been looking for, then you're like, oh great, didn't know you were looking for that color. But I like that, like I just love all colors. I just think like the color of your dress is really lovely, and it's a great color, right? So,
well, thank you very much. So can you tell us a little bit about the Artist Network?
Yeah, so the Artist Network is a not-for-profit organization that helps artists with the business of art. So a lot of people are wonderful at the creation of their work, and this really helps them to understand how do you price your work, how do you do an outdoor show, how do you get into galleries, and it provides that kind of business sense as well as an incredibly supportive community. The Artist Network curates and produces shows like the Riverdale Art Walk and Art Walk North, as well as involvement in the Toronto Art Expo, and so it provides kind of show opportunities in a bit of a safe and supportive environment for artists, and mentoring also with artists who've made it and who have been successful, and it just creates a really wonderful community.
So how does food then, or why does food inspire you so much with your art?
I think that the forms are really beautiful. I think that promoting local produce is important, and yeah, just the forms, the leaves, the colors, the textures, I find really inspiring to work with.
I would have to say the links themselves when you start working with making the rings, because I actually form the rings myself and I draw the wire through a plate, make it longer and thinner, coil it up, put it around different size mandrels. As I'm working with the material, because it's a spatial thing, things occur to me as I'm putting the rings together, and that's sort of how I find my next pattern. And the other thing that inspires me is any interesting stone or crystal. I love color, so I do a lot of colorful things as well. And I just love working in silver and all the precious metals, silver and gold, and some of the base metals like bronze as well.
Now, if you had one piece of advice for a young artist who, would like to do something along the line of what you're doing, what would it be?
To stop thinking about making it a career and to just make that first step to start showing your work. It's a scary thing to do. You're kind of standing there in your underwear in front of everyone. It's hard to put your heart and soul out there for people to view and criticise, but it's how you grow as an artist. It's how you, I think that, to be honest, I think standing, talking to people about what you do really helps to solidify it in your mind, and it helps coalesce those ideas that you maybe have to actually be out talking about your work and showing it rather than being at home. That's my best piece of advice.
Don't give up on it, because I think that it's really easy to get discouraged, but there's a lot of support.
Oh man, just to keep going, patience and persistence, never give up, because being in the arts is very tough, and you have to have thick skin, but also you have to love what you do. So I don't know. Yeah, keep on pedaling. Yeah.
Keep on pedaling. Where can people contact you and find your jewelry?
Well, my studio's here in Toronto on DuPont Street, and I have a website, which is www.lisarideoutjewelry.ca.
Check out my work at www.nestle.com and hire me as an illustrator.
Hire us.
Yeah.
So you can reach the Artist Network at artistnetwork.ca
And yours?
and KateTaylorStudio.com. I had to think about that.
So Karen, thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for stopping by.
I've been speaking with Karen Taylor, artist, here at Nathan Phillips Square. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, more on Extraordinary Women TV. So stay with us. You're watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm here with dancer, choreographer, and Nuit Blanche programmer, Jen Goodwin. You're performing at Nathan Phillips Square for the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition. Tell us a little bit about your art as a performing artist.
Well, most of my work is movement-based, so I would consider myself a dance artist, and it deals with choreography, sometimes text, emotions bubbling under the surface of the physicality of what I show. In some cases, it also involves music and rhythm. In this piece I'm presenting at Nathan Phillips Square, it's called If I Should Stumble. I'm working with a stunt performer, and as well as other performing artists as an ensemble. It is looking at falling from grace. It's my second piece I've done about falling. I seem to be very interested in the physicality as well as the intention and emotion behind falling. Basically, mistakes, screwing up, how do we get back on our feet again, banging our head against the same wall, trying to learn something, trying to get up and move on.
It does. You talk about the theme falling. I mean, how does that play into your work as a performing artist?
The subtext of what we say, and being human, basically, with all the beauty and mistakes equally involved in that.
So, what sparked you to want to become a dancer to begin with, and how long have you been dancing?
Well, I think I've been dancing since I was 6, ballet class, etc. And then, but I pursued it as a career once I think I realized it was a real physical and emotional outlet for expression. There was something I think along that straddles basically something that's athletic and artistic, and I think dancing and movement has both of those in it that really turn me on and that I really enjoy.
You know, we've heard the stereotype of the starving artist for centuries. What kind of significance does that have for you? I mean, is there such a thing as a starving artist?
Absolutely, it should go away. But no, artists are really struggling. Artists are vastly underpaid, undervalued in many cases. I think we really need to advocate for better conditions for artists, and I'd like to think I'm a part of that voice doing that.
And what do you think would be sort of the one thing we need to do to change that?
Pay them like you would your plumbers. You know, if we want an artist to do something, just don't assume that they're doing it for exposure. I think it was it Charles Patchen? Is that his name? Charles Pachter, who said many artists have almost died from exposure, from overexposure, because we offer that to artists, and at the same time, you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your bills with that. And artists need to put food on the table just like anyone else, and this is what they're good at. You know, this is why we ask them to do things, to make art. We're going to ask an electrician to do what they need to do to our house, and we should pay artists with the same amount of respect.
How does color play into your art as a performing artist?
And we were looking at the color palette of the work. So even as, I guess it's representing also the emotions and the sort of the tides that, the layers underneath the work. So the main performer, who has a bit more of a chaotic feel, is in black and sort of more severe and hot pink heels. And then the other performers are all in taupes and creams and tan colors, and they are representing more sort of the main performer's subconscious, the waves and the ripples that she might create through her life. And I really wanted them to match the stage as much as possible, so they blend to a certain degree. But so through that color palette, we create one visual look.
If you had one piece of advice for a young girl who is just really has a dream of being a dancer, hasn't yet started, what would it be?
I'd say don't let it go. You know, just focus on it, keep at it, and be the best you can be at it. And at the same time, it's also good to know how to do something else to help support your art as well and to help pay those bills. So I'd say be multi-skilled. You know, find out how to do the bookkeeping as well. Find out how to write your grants. Find out how to represent yourself as an artist. But I'd say part of it is just hang on to it. I think it's hard to be an artist, and so many people will tell you in messages, whether it's direct or indirectly, to do something else. And I think if your heart tells you to do it and your gut really tells you to do it, then you got to hang on to it and go for it.
I mean, dance is your art. How do you survive? How do you earn a living?
So I'm a mother of 2 young boys as well, 3 and 5, and so it's important for me to have a bit of stability. But so I am also one of the artistic programmers of Scotiabank Nuit Blanche, which is my office is right behind us here at City Hall. So I have a job that is creative, but also gives me some stability. And I also find I love producing work, and it's a way for me to also support artists and be an advocate for them as well on the other side.
When you had your children, how was it for you when you went back to dancing after taking a break?
Well, I find I choreograph more than perform. So physically, I was able to give myself that time as compared to someone who's like a company dancer who's really making their living on movement. So I didn't have as much of that, but I find, you know, having children definitely takes its toll on the body, and I have felt that. And I think my work has slowed down. I haven't been producing as much, but I find I'm sticking with it, and I'm just allowing more time for the creation process. I either do projects now that take 4 years to create, or something like this project where it's like 2 rehearsals, bam, let's do it. So my time management has really changed, and since becoming a mother, as well as how I have to take care of my body because I have a lot less time to myself.
Well, thank you, Jen Goodwin, for speaking with us today. If you would like to be a guest on Extraordinary Women TV, visit our website at extraordinarywomentv.com. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at Shannon_Skinner or on Facebook at Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. Join us next time for another episode of Extraordinary Women TV.